Hello everybody, it's Patty the Tinkerer's wife, and it is an absolutely gloriously beautiful spring day here in Oregon, here at Tinkerer's Paradise in the garden. Yeah, so some of you have heard that I am turning under the crimson clover in my garden boxes. Um, and I'm going to talk about that. I'm also going to show you some divisions of a clump of daylilies and how many I got out of one clump. So you can see how easy this is. The soil isn't on them anymore, but I can kind of explain how easy it is and how to do it anyway. And I will do that. But I want to explain what I did with the soil. And also, before I get into all of that, I want to welcome everybody that's new. And please consider subscribing. Yes. And before all of you leave, please hit that like. That's a great way to support the channel, and it's free. So anyway, do that. And if you don't want to miss any future videos, you can hit that notification bell. And if you click it twice, it gives you an option that you can get notified whenever I put out a video, that's a pretty cool thing. And one warning, YouTube is not the greatest at always doing it, but they do sometimes. So anyway, I just want to thank everybody for being here. I am very thankful to have this platform to be able to share what I am doing here and how I do what I do, and to also explain why I do what I do. Now, before I get into the boxes, I'm going to show you these little daylily starts, and I'll show you the little pot that they came out of, and it was a pretty full pot. So this is the little pot that they were in. They only came up to about here, the soil, so there was a lot of roots in there. But you can see how big. It wasn't all that big. But anyway, viable starts I got out of that, and each one of these will grow into a plant. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So out of one clump, I got 14 starts that I know will go. There's one that's questionable, but I'm going to just throw it on the ground or someplace so that it can do what it needs to do. Excuse me, I've got an itchy nose. The medication that I'm on for my chronic pain makes my nose run. I just hate it. So, and I've got a tickle. Must be a cat hair. Yeah, Jackson hair. I have a cat here who visits me. He's actually the neighbor's cat. His real name is it Cheeto, I think? We call him Jackson. I've called him Halftime Jackson since he first showed up, because he was out here about half the time. He was out here in the garden with me, and then he wouldn't show up the rest of the time. But I have a feeling that his owner or whoever else he hangs out with, because he probably collects humans, they're probably home. He loves people and loves to sit on laps. Okay, so these are the starts. Now, I wanted to share this real quick because this is a great way to make, if you want like a row of these along a fence line, or if you want to do like a swoop of them, where they'd go like this across your bed, so you've got this curved line of green that comes up, or maybe just clumps of them. You could take and plant these three several inches apart, but in a triangular shape, and pretty soon within a few years they'd grow into one big nice clump. If they get too dense, they tend to not bloom as well, so it's good to divide them once in a while. I'm an obsessive propagator, so I will try to get as many plants as I can out of a clump. I have a hard time just taking a shovel and cutting anything in half. But that's me. So anyway, now these boxes, these beautiful boxes, these are amazingly built. They're probably my only one complaint was the wood that was chosen for the tops. This is an outdoor lumber, which is not a good choice, but it's what my husband decided to do in spite of my recommendation to use cedar, and that's just how it goes. I just let it go for then. But I wanted to show you one of the reasons I don't like this wood. That is why, right there. It is not a good wood for putting out here. It's already cracked. Cedar would not do that. So I would recommend cedar. So this is the crimson clover here. And this bed will be getting turned under, but not until these bloom, because I'm going to let them bloom and have the flowers for a little while. It will mask all of this back here a little bit, which will be nice for a while. I'm going to be going through and clearing all that out. When we first take these out, what I did was I just pulled them out because this ground is pretty soft, and laid them on the ground and let them do this. And one of the things I would recommend if you do this is to chop them up, because these are pretty stringy, and so it makes them a little harder to get under the soil, which you can see here. We have some tops, and some of them look like they still want to grow. I'm going to tuck that down under there. So anyhow, that's what I did here. A friend of mine came over a few days ago, and we took to turning them. And these beds are so easy. You can actually do it by hand pretty easily once the soil is dug down underneath. But I know that down underneath we have two layers here. We have the top layer, which is about a foot of three-way mix. That is basically sand and topsoil, and which was pretty sandy, and compost. But the compost turned out to have a lot of sand in it and was a lot of wood from an urban compost, you know, where they take the tree trimmings or something. It could have even been stuff that they got from somebody that they contracted with. Anyway, it was not very good, and it didn't grow plants very well last year. So I planted the cover crop, which I had talked about in another video or two, because it was the best thing to plant. The roots of these plants produce, I don't know if I can find one that has nodules on it. I don't know if you can see those. I'm going to try and get nodules so you can see them, because these are pretty cool. Come on. I know you can do it. There we go. Okay. You see those little bumps? They're about the size of a flea. Those are little nodules of nitrogen. And clover and peas and other plants in this family produce those little nodules by taking nitrogen out of the air. And so I have those, and then I had the green material, which they consider the top material. When you till it in, it's called green manure. And it will decompose and add more nutrients to the soil, which would be great. But it also adds organic matter, which for this soil is real important, because underneath that top 1 foot of compost is a bunch of soil that turned out to be very dense, which is pretty sad. We had to dig down and get it kind of mixed in a little bit too down there, and lighten it up a little bit so it'll drain. Now last year I really didn't have sitting water in this, except for right here where it got tamped down. My husband, who did not know about soil and all of that, didn't want this to move much. This actually goes all the way down to the ground. He decided to do that and put these in here to hold it, and it worked very, very well. So we've got the 2 blocks, one on each side, and it worked perfectly. We opted for that instead of using the T-post that Jess over at Roots and Refuge, her and Maya use, because we have this landscape fabric that's down underneath these beds, and it keeps the roots of those trees from coming up into the boxes, which they will. They're terrible about that. They go where the water and nutrients are, and they are big thieves. 500 to 600 gallons a day is what they'll drink. So the rain that we get here in the Pacific Northwest is a benefit to those beautiful trees. Whoop, squirrel. We're going to have some beautiful blooms here pretty soon. Oh, wow, look at that. That's got pink. Oh, it won't be very long at all. That's a Carol Mackey Daphne. I love that plant. Very easy to take care of, does not mind a little drought. So anyway, What else am I doing to this soil? Well, I'll tell you, one thing I did was I added peat moss. And I chose peat moss because I know how to use peat moss. I'm familiar with it. It's also less expensive than the core is that everybody likes to use. And I'm not using that much of it. I mean, I'm not, I don't know. I'm not going to get into oh, you shouldn't use that thing. I just won't even visit that. This is my garden. It's what I have available. It's what I got a really good buy on, and it's organic. Peat moss adds acidity to the soil, and this soil, even still this year, was 7.5 pH, which is sweeter than what I like it. I like it at about 6.5. 7 at the highest. So getting the peat moss will help to acidify the soil. It will add more organic matter to it. But anyway, this peat moss, if I was to break this open, which I'm kind of wishing I did have something to break it open with, but I don't. It is very dry and will not hydrate very easily. So the best way I have found to do that, and what I do is I will cut this into half. I'll probably just I cut it right down here, down the center and down the sides. And then I'll put half of it in there and half of it in another container. And this wheelbarrow fits half of it just about perfect. And I'll break it up, make sure all of the chunks are broke up, relatively reasonably. And then I'll bring hot water from in the house out here. I don't have a hose bib that fits. My faucet in the kitchen doesn't work with a hose. So I have to do this using, the bucket method. And I have the big, the garden watering cans. I use a couple of those and a couple of aluminum pots. And it probably took about, I don't even know how many gallons, but it took quite a few. I would say about 6 or 8 maybe. And I poured it over and I mixed it around and then squished it with my hands. And within a half an hour, it was ready to go. Now, if I had just put cold water in it, I'd still be standing here today waiting for it to hydrate, because cold water does not go into this easily at all. It has this resistance to the water when it's cold, and it needs to get warmed up. So anyway, the warm water works really well. The same thing when you use those little peat pellets, the ones that you can plant in that they swell up about so tall. Put them in a tray and put hot water over them. They go whoop, and they just go whoop, and they're all the way up there. Really, the fastest way to do it. The other thing that's nice is you can set them aside and let them cool just a little bit so that they're nice, warm but not hot temperature, and that'll help your seeds to germinate faster. So yeah, that's your tip on that. The other thing I added was there's 2 bags of what they called cow manure plus compost. It's a premium. You used to just get bags of what was called composted cow manure, or they just call it cow manure. But they've kind of got into the marketing shtick, and I'm not sure exactly what the makeup of it is. But it's cow manure, which is great for nitrogen and some other things, and we'll add some organic matter plus the compost, which is always good. So I got that, and we put a half of one of these, which these 3 cubic foot bales will increase in volume to what is equal to both of those together, to 6 cubic feet. So I put 3 cubic feet on each one of these. I'm making sure I'm not, yeah. I couldn't remember if I bought 4 of them or not. It's been a long week. Anyway, so I used half of one of those which came out to 3 cubic feet, and I spread it on this and just added it in. I didn't want too much, but it will impact the pH and bring it lower, which is what I need to have happen. So that'll be good. Adds the organic matter. It will also help keep it hydrated because it absorbs water. Now, if I let this get too dry and it's chilly out and I try to water it, it will be a bear to rehydrate. However, if it's warm and the soil's warmed up, it won't be so much of a problem. But you want to keep the soil evenly moist. That's a really good thing with most gardens. Certain crops do like to dry out between, but that's something you have to figure out. I'm not good at keeping those things in my head. I know other things better. So anyway, the tip, probably my number one tip is when you're using a product, even I think that the core, when you want to rehydrate it, use hot water instead of cold water, and it will hydrate faster. Even soil itself, when it has some resistance from being too dry, it gets that surface tension. It gets too much and the water won't go into it. If you use hot water, it resists, its resistance goes away. So that's a tip for you. Get out the buckets and go to the tub and fill up those buckets and bring them out, and you can rehydrate just about anything. So the other thing I'm gonna share is that, last year when I did this, I put up, you can see it over there on the ground, there's the arch, that arch there. Well, that arch there was right up here. And what I had planted at this end of it was this plant here, only this plant here was as tall as I am. It is a collard tree, a purple collard tree, for those of you that are new here. And I got to tell you, these are some tasty greens. Very tasty greens. They don't produce seed very often, so it's best to get them from cuttings. I think it was about $15 for several cuttings, I don't remember. But as they become more well-known, that'll come down. If you know somebody that's got a collard tree, you can beg cuttings off of them. These side branches, all of these things will root. I was digging through the compost yesterday. And I found some, I don't know if it was, oh, wait a minute, I remember what it was. I'm doing really good here. We're trying to remember a name. Brussel sprouts. The Brussels sprouts, if you buy them on the stalk, you got that big stalk. Well, I don't have any way to chop it up, so I just sawed it into like 3 pieces and stuck it in the compost. One of them had roots on it. I'm not kidding. I swear, I think we kind of shoot ourselves in the foot when we don't take advantage of these things. I know with my kale, I would let it grow and I'd cut it way back and I'd get all these other sprouts coming up, and I had kale that lasted 3 years in the garden, and that's a tip for you, another tip. But anyway, if you have a plant that gets kind of leggy and it's got shoots down underneath it, you can trim off that top, and actually there is a rooting hormone that's safe to use on vegetables, and I'll talk about that in another video. I don't have it right here with me, but you can dip those things in that rooting hormone and dip them in some soil, and cover just in a little container, like a little 3 1/4 inch or 4 inch container, in some seedling mix, because that's nice, light and fluffy, and the roots will root faster, and water it in, and the darn things will grow roots. In order for the plant to not lose too much moisture, make sure there aren't a ton of leaves on top. You maybe want 1 leaf, and then don't pinch out the top unless you don't mind having side shoots. If you have side shoots that are coming up, use those. That's what I did on a couple that I got off of the mother plant that I have in that pot over there. But anyway, you can root those pretty readily, and you can have like a forest. The walking stick kale, you can do that with too. Anyhow, I just wanted to share that with you. It's kind of a squirrel tip, my squirrel tip of the day. But anyway, things here are growing. It's beautiful out here. I've got daffodils blooming. The crocus are done blooming. The grape hyacinth are blooming. I noticed that, and it won't be long and tulips will be up and blooming. We have a wonderful tulip festival out here every spring, just south of Portland at the Wooden Shoe uh, Tulip Bulb Farm. They sell nationally and internationally too, I would imagine. But anyway, if you're looking for some place to buy tulip bulbs, you might check them out. They won't get shipped until fall, though, just so you know, because they're planted in the fall. So late summer, that kind of thing. I want this nose to stop running. This is so annoying. Ah. Anyway, I think I'll let you go for now. I want to thank everybody for spending time with me. I know we have more time these days, so hopefully I'll have a few more videos out, and be watching for when I go live. I don't know why I'm not going live. I do it on Facebook. If you guys know me on Facebook, you can catch me going live on Facebook, which I think is just easier. I don't have to set up mods and that kind of thing. But anyhow, yeah, I'm doing it. I'm going to talk myself blue in the face until somebody kicks me in the fanny and makes me go. So anyway, thank you for joining me. That was just a little ramble there. And I really appreciate all of you who've joined the channel. I am nearing the 1,000 mark and will be doing a giveaway when I hit 1,000 subscribers, and probably doing a live for that. So just keep watching and keep gardening, keep creating, make something beautiful, and encourage one another. We're going to get through this together. It'll be great. We'll look back on it as a memory and have wonderful memories of when people lifted us up and when we lifted others up. That's what I hope to find coming out of this and other wonderful creative things. So this is Patty, the Tinkerer's wife. I'm going to leave it right there. I'm signing off. God bless. You have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.